Hello, welcome to Indie Tutorials. My name is Guillermo and I would like to thank the patrons supporting this channel. Hello everyone, today we are going to take a look at creating the jump mechanic. So if we start sprinting, we can jump during the sprint ability or animation. Like so. So let's get started. Let's start by adding a new action map. So let's go to our data folder, open up the game input map, and from here what I'm going to do is, because I'm a little bit lazy, I'm just going to copy the sprint action and duplicate it. Now I can rename this one to jump. In the interaction we have this hold from the sprint, so we need to remove those and make sure that we have no interactions on each action itself. But instead of the button east, I'm going to listen for the game button A in the game controller, in the Xbox controller, button A. And for the keyboard, I'm going to listen for the X key. There we go. After that, we can save the asset and add now in ORK editor our input keys. Okay, so let's open up ORK editor, and in our base control input keys, let's add a new input key. Let's call this one jump. Hit OK, and I will rename the GUID to jump as well. Was I using? Yeah, it's okay. And down below in the input ID settings, the input origin, we want to choose the Unity input action. Then we can select the input action itself, which is this move jump. We can leave the input handling to down and click on save. Now this is now the tricky part, because we want to jump like in Dark Souls type of game, Bloodborne, Dark Souls. I'm not talking about Sekiro or Elden Ring where the player can actually jump, but in this case we want to handle this like a leap type of jump when sprinting. So we want to jump only if we are sprinting, right? In this case, the way that we can handle here this logic in the input keys from ORK Framework is to add another key. So let's hit key, add key, and in this case this name is going to be let's say sprint dash jump. I will change the weight right away. Sprint dash jump. And in the input settings, but before, let me just uncheck here fix update and also on the jump. In the input settings, the input origin is going to be in this case another input key. So we need to select the input key we need to listen to, and we are going to use both sprint and jump together. So in this case needed, we need both. So click on all, and in the input key let's select sprint, then let's add another input key and select jump. So this sprint jump key will be registered whenever sprint and jump are pressed together. Right? So let's click on save and let's start building our jump state. To create the jump state, let's go into our scripts folder, then gameplay, behaviors, characters, states, and let's create a new script here. So let's C# script and let's rename it this to jump state. Right? Let Unity compile the script and open up in the editor of choice you had. In my case, Visual Studio. So here I will change the model behavior for character state. I need to add the using Animancer namespace. I will remove the seal keyboard here, and what I can do is to speed up a little bit this process is open up, for example, the dodge or the roll state, sorry, that we had previously. So let's open up that one, and we want a lot of things we had here, so let's copy paste everything till the on enter state. So let's copy all this stuff, control copy, control paste, and let's see what we need to remove. So we don't want any Machinum asset here. Clip state, I'm missing here a public property in case we wanted to query this transition elsewhere. Main animation returns main animation. Now when we want to enter to this state, when our character movement sprint is to true, is set to true, okay, this is for enter this state. We always want to exit the state, and in the awake method we want to register, but not to a specific function. But we want to do is, as soon as we finish this animation or this state, we want to return to the default state. So here, when this animation ends or this state ends, let's click character, state machine, state, force set default state. Now in the on enter state we want, of course, to play the animation. I will leave the base in case we wanted to later on introduce some logic in the base character state, okay, for the enter state. So let's leave it like so. Save the script and let's go back to Unity. Let it compile, and now let's create this state in our player. Alright, so let's open up the player prefab. Come on, Unity. Open the prefab, and in the state game object, let's add our new jump state. So let's select our states and jump state. Right? It's asking us for the character script, which is residing in the player game object. So let's just drag the player, and now we need to assign an animation clip here. So I have imported already a nice jump and roll animation. There we go. So I will go and assign this animation clip to this main animation slot. I will open up the properties of this animation clip and make sure the end time is checked. This will ensure that our on-end animation event is called at this time. Okay, So make sure to click on end time. Afterwards, what we need to do is go back to our player game object, and we are going to add this jump state into our character script. The same way we have the respawn and the idle, we are going to add this state here. And the reason for that is because even though this jump state is some sort of locomotion state, this jump is one single action. It's not a loop animation, so we cannot add it here, for example, in the locomotion state. And I find it easier to maintain or to trigger this single action in the character script itself. So let's do that. Open up the character script and let's make the changes. Alright, so now we have the script open. Let's find a nice place where to put this stuff. So right after the idle state, let's create a new serialized field, variable private character state. Let's call this one jump, and let's create a public read-only variable property character state jump, and we'll return our jump variable. Okay, so after doing that, we can scroll down. We have our awake and our start method. So let's create here in the update. Here is where we want to listen to the input key that we created, the sprint and jump. So before start writing the code, let's go to the ORK constant that we created last video and populate the constant with the new input keys that we created at the beginning of the video. So I will go to edit, generate Mackinac constants, and let Unity compile. Now we come back to the character script and start typing if gaming is love Mackinac input keys get button, and we want to trigger the gaming is love Mackinac Mackie input keys, and we want to get the asset. The asset we want to get here, we need to pass the ID, so we want to query now our ORK constant. So ORK input keys, and we have there our sprint and jump key, right? So if we have pressed this combination of keys, we want the state machine try to set the state jump, and because the jump state in the enter condition has the character needs to be sprinting, it will enter only if we are actually sprinting already. Okay, hope that makes sense. So after that, we want to save the script and go back to Unity. Click on our player game object and let's assign the new state. Now, because I have an editor tool called Inspector Gadget from the same developer of Animancer, I can at this point drag the states game object into this slot like so, and I will be prompt to select which state I want to select for all the state that I already have in this game object. So it's easier like so, right away. But if you don't have this inspector gadget plugin, so let me remove what I did. Another way to do it is perhaps let's lock the inspector here and add a new inspector here in this tab. So add tab inspector, right? Let's select the states, and from here you can now drag the jump state over there. Otherwise, what you will do is, if you don't do that, you will be duplicating the multi-state all over again. Another way to do it is, for example, let me remove this tab from here. It's in the states itself, create another child object, and let's call this one jump state. And instead of creating the state itself in the states game object, we could create it here. So each state will have its own hierarchy of game objects, so it will be easier for you to just drag each state into the slots. But again, this approach would require to have a new game object for each state, and at the end I think it's not performance friendly. So let's do again player and select the states, and thanks for inspector gadget I can select the right state. And after that, let's save our prefab and go back to the scene. Okay, so now if we hit play, we are getting there a warning from Animancer that we are going to fix in a little bit. But if we start walking and running, jogging, we can still roll. We can have our back step. We can start sprinting. And now to test the jump, we need to be sprinting and click the A button at the same time. And you saw we were able to sprint. So let's have more stamina there, and let's try it again and jump. There we go. So it's working. Okay. So let's see about that warning. Let's stop playing and let's debug that. Okay, so let's check the warnings. The first one is telling us that when running the respawn state, a state or a sequence has already been created, or a transition has already been created. And the second one is about the back step and the dodge state, in the dodge state on animation end event. So let's fix that first. It's easier. So let's go into our dodge states. Let's see if we can click here. The state itself is not linked, so let's go into the scripts states and dodge state. The issue here is that Animancer events on end is expecting us to transition to other state, not just call change in this variable from ORK Framework. So what we can do here is, after we change the variable, we can call character state machine and try set default state. So this will set the state machine to the idle state after we finish our backstep or roll animations. Okay, so if we were now to test the first warning, or the warning regarding the back step, and we try to do the back step, we can see no warning is registered also for the roles. Okay, so let's fix now the other warning, and this is because in the player game object, the order execution of the scripts, we can see that the character script is going to be executed before the states or the character state script. So we need to ensure that the character state script is executed before the character state. So this is the one causing the issue, because it's registering the transition between the state before the character state. Alright, so let's go into our character state, and what we can do here is add an execution. So let's add default execution order, and we could hardcode a value here or add a constant like we did earlier. So let's do that. Public const int default execution order equals -1000, and now we can use that constant here. There we go. So let's save the script. Let Unity compile the script, and let's give it another try. Ctrl P to start play mode. And there we go. No warnings when the respawn state. We can still roll, back step. Let's start sprinting and jump. There we go. So everything still and keeps working as expected. So I hope you learned something new today. Thank you for supporting the channel, and see you on the next one. Bye bye.